Welcome into Shaping Reality for October 2025. Can you guys believe it? We're in the last quarter of the year. I can remember people saying, strive to survive 2025. So we're almost there. I'm
Yeah,
joined by the wonderful Penny Kelly. How are you, Penny?
I'm good. I'm good. I hope you are too. And I hope everybody out there is doing well, feeling sassy. Yeah, it's a good time to be alive, believe it or not. So
Yeah, well, it's definitely not boring.
yeah, right.
So, I have to say, Penny, I ended up watching the Look-See twice in the last,
Oh,
I watched it the day it came out. And I watched it again yesterday just because it was so content rich. And
okay.
I would like to touch on a few things maybe later on, but kind of where I'd like to start, and I think this is what you had in mind as well. I had a show with Max Lowen this morning,
Oh, yeah,
and she went through the topic of mind control and how we've been mind controlled.
yep.
And
We
she has a very insider, unique, behind the curtain perspective
yeah,
because of her background as a satanic ritual abuse survivor. And she saw political leaders and celebrities and this and that doing the dirty deeds and, really the machinations behind it. So
right.
we went through that, and then as we were wrapping up and kind of trying to talk about, so where do we go from here? The consensus is you can't fight the system that's controlling the planet right now. The only solution that we talked about was you have to rise above it.
Okay,
Remove your focus from that and do other things with your consciousness.
right, right.
That's a difficult
Yeah,
that's a difficult plan
yeah,
because in this reality system, what we've been taught, and we've been taught all the wrong things, and it was all lies.
yeah.
We've taught that you got to fight the bad guy.
Oh, yeah, but here's the thing, energy goes where attention goes. And you
Exactly.
don't want to put energy into that system that is so bad. There
Yeah.
are some people that will do that, and because they need to learn what does it take to undo, what does it take to counter, what does it take to, I'll use the word fight, um, to be able to resist or to build a barrier between the self and that kind of activity. And so they do take that on specifically as part of their own growth process, and
Okay.
they learn they learn a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we I want to mention that we are multidimensional creatures. I just
Okay. So can you define what that means? Like for everyone watching, what does it mean to be multidimensional?
um let me give an example, okay? um So we talk, lots of people in the woo community talk about past lives. And they talk about those past lives as if they're past.
Yeah.
But and even I do because it takes too much explanation to to explain anything else. But those other lives, whether they're past, alternate presents, or future, are all part of the gigantic multidimensional self that has unfolded in various frequency zones that have certain intentions in that zone, and each moment in time is a moment when there's a specific set of frequencies available to the people who live in that place and that time. And they want access, they want to be able to use those frequencies and the greater situations happening to test themselves or to see what they can do or to experience, becoming the president of the United States, for instance, or to be like, sometimes we'll say something like, I want to be a woman who has 10 children. And then the next, once they experience that, they're like, whoa, maybe I'll do the opposite. And so we have all of these balancing lives that are really part of the multidimensional unfolding of the great wisdom in the, what I'll call the bigger self, the multidimensional self.
Okay.
And,
can I ask a question really quick?
yeah.
So if I'm just going to choose a number, I imagine it's infinite, the lives that any one person has.
Okay.
So as this is unfolding and all these lives and all these experiences are actually happening in the same moment because there's no time,
Right.
then any one of those experiences could then inform this experience.
Yes, they do. They do. And when you get to some of the more advanced stages of consciousness, you're aware of all of those, and you are able to draw from them ideas, insights, wisdom, experience, do's and don'ts, all of the things that you are experiencing in that life can be shared, by you in this time, in this life. But you have to get to a point where you can expand and reach into those time frames. Those are typically, to be able to do that, to be able to be aware of other versions of yourself, is really a higher consciousness gift. I guess I'll say it that way. People aren't normally like that, but we do have this concept that we have other versions, other lives, and that's the seed of that understanding that, OMG, I am a multidimensional being. So
is with the frequency here on Earth,
okay,
let's talk about 3D. And we've talked before that we're moving into 4D. Sometimes we're 3D, 4D, then sometimes we're 4D, 5D.
right.
So there has been historically, at least in our lifetimes, a kind of a ceiling of the amount of information or light that we can draw on from other experiences that we're having.
Okay, why do you think that ceiling is there? What is that ceiling?
Well, I would come up with two things if this was a quiz. The first would be because we agreed to come in and partition off a lot of the information in order to learn the lesson of going down into density and coming back up. And the second thing would be that it would be just like a room with low ceilings. If vibration is only really goes so far, you can't access information beyond that bandwidth. Those would be my two answers.
Okay, so your first answer was kind of accurate. We do come to a physical realm in order to have a, unmistakable pop in the nose that says you can't do that. When you think like that and you get those results, there's a common sense factor in us. A survival factor is what it is, sometimes referred to as the ego. That self that is watching the results is assessing, do I want to do that again or no? And so we do come here to have we call it a quick fix. It doesn't feel very quick when it lasts 80 or 90 years, but that's just the perception that goes with this time frame. So yes, there is some of that dipping in to the third dimension in order to lose yourself in the frequencies of this time and place. But there's no ceilings. There's no limits. And my own experience shows that to be the case. I don't have all those same limits. What are those limits that most people, what you would call the ceiling that you bump up against? That it's not really a ceiling, it's a set of beliefs that are incredibly limiting.
Yeah.
And those beliefs are things like Bob Monroe and I used to talk about all this stuff all the time, and we would say, man, how are we going to get people to understand that they're not physical? They are first energy.
Yeah.
First their energy, first their consciousness, and then out of that comes all the physical stuff that happens. And we didn't have a solution, you know. But that is really, there are no limits. But if you want to get past the limits that you've accepted, you have to do some heavy duty work. You have to let go of yourself as a physical being, while at the same time taking excellent care of the physical self. And that's where, right there, people fall down. You know, I'm just going to ignore the physical self. You see this in India all the time. Gurus who don't feed themselves, who live in the manure of some animal barn or their own manure. They never take a bath. They don't wash their hair. They don't do anything that engages them at the physical level. And that you can get beyond consciousness, beyond the limits of a lot of consciousness, but it doesn't really, it doesn't have a big enough effect on the greater world unless somebody happens to come along and say, I want to write a book about you, or you decide that you're going to write a book about your own experiences, or somebody makes a movie, or the legend, the word of mouth thing takes off and you become known in your region as somebody who does something unusual. Okay. And you need to develop whatever that unusual set of gifts is. Everybody has these amazing gifts. So, you know, you can kind of overlook the scraggly hair, the raggedy clothes, or being absolutely naked, which is a huge distraction for most people. And the fact that somebody never takes a bath, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the limitations, is how do you not be limited by the physical and not subscribe to this is all that I am. At the same time, you're taking excellent care of yourself. So then there's other issues that come along. Your family issues. When you're different, I remember wanting desperately to appear to be normal in the early stages of Kundalini, and I couldn't be. And even to this day, my kids and people I know will say to me, wow, you're different. And I'm trying really hard to be so normal and fit in. But, you know, you have to let go of worrying about that. So I no longer care that there's people who say, you know, or like my kids, Mom, you're just weird, that kind of thing. But once you get past the family thing, which that was a big deal for me because I have a big family, and that was a lot of rejection. When I was banned from the family, I was broken at that point. And fortunately, I made the decision, I'm just going to love them from a distance. And eventually, they began to realize that, you know, that I was okay. And so then you get past family, then you have to do something in the world, especially if you're in the West, to make a living, or you're going to be on the street. And sometimes that's a choice. But there's all these beliefs, and then we have the whole set of religious beliefs. And then we have all the medical beliefs. And then we have all of the educational crap that we were taught, the false history, the false science, the false social studies, everything. But the only thing that really wasn't false was the literature and the math. And so all of that has to be gotten, you have to come to a place where you can enjoy those things and not think that that's the last word in science or education or medicine or. And then you come to governance. And when you wake up, you can no longer be governed from the outside. You govern from the inside. And that is why the government has been so afraid of the awakening of consciousness, and why they have co-opted that and said, oh no, that's called woke. That's bull. It's not woke at all. It's just a doubling down of their attempt to squash the evolution in order to be able to hang on to money and power. And that gets to be a pretty empty but very powerful ceiling or limit on the expansion of consciousness. And fortunately, I think the great majority of people are waking up. Maybe they don't know what that next stage of development is, but it's the discovery of your psychic abilities. It's what I call the stage of like natural intelligence. It comes after abstract reasoning. It's called natural intelligence, stage 5. And there's a stage 6 and a stage 7 and a stage 8. So we are not done developing, not even close. and so I think at this point, we have to let go or begin letting go, with all due respect, to all of that stuff that we have been taught. In order to fit in, we've swallowed that in order to fit in order to be accepted. And you have to fit in order to be recognized long enough to be able to recognize yourself. Once you have self-recognition going on, then you don't need the external world at all. And it's a joy. It's interesting. It's comedic. It's a comedy at times. It's a tragedy at other times. But it's just something that you watch, and you're not limited by that, and you're not in it. You're just watching it. It's like, I can't explain it any better than that. Yeah. So,
okay, yeah. I have a question about that. What you just covered. I have heard, and maybe you've said it and other people have said it as well, that we are moving through a sector of space.
Oh, yes.
That has a different energy, more photonic energy are the words that I've heard repeatedly.
Yeah.
It's a different energy frequency that we're moving into. Right. So that to me looks like, from my perspective, and I did hear what you say, but it looks like a raising of the ceiling to me.
It does.
In other words, there is more. So if that photonic light, if light is information, then we are moving through a sector of space where we're going to be bathed in more information, which I perceive as more apparent psychic abilities. People are going to become more intuitive. They're going to be more psychic. They're going to understand situations more clearly, more quickly. In other words, the ceiling, in my analogy, is going to be raised, and the potential of growing into what we can be is going to blossom.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And we get a boost into that about every 12,000 years, right? It's and it's not even, there are other boosts. Okay. So as we spin around and, we have our axis, which is off a little bit. And it takes 26,000 years for that angle to make a circuit all the way around the zodiac, which you hear people talk about. That's one boost. When you get back to the beginning of that circuit, you get a huge boost in energy. And it's, we don't know all of the reasons why, but we do. And then there's the micro energies that come from our sun. And then we're in a circuit, and this is a big question mark. We're moving around the edge of the galaxy. The galaxy is spinning, and it's carrying us through all of these different fields. And those fields some are higher, some are lower. And so they have an impact on us. So we have these windows of opportunity that if you don't poo-poo the things that are happening, the psychic experiences, the amazing dreams that seem so real that they shock the daylights out of you, or the times when you just know something, you just out of the blue, you just know something. It's like precognition, and then it happens, and you go, oh, I saw that, I knew that. Those kinds of things are hints that we're supposed to unfold further, that those would become everyday things. And I think, was it you that we were talking with, and I was telling the story about the cup hooks, that I needed some cup hooks.
And
Yeah.
they showed up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like within a day or two. That continues to happen. And every day there's some little thing that I go, oh, look at that. You know, and it could be something in terms of a person calling. It could be something that I've been wondering about, and all of a sudden I see a video. It could be just the other day I had a day where I just spent the whole day looking at what's going on in the world. And I'd look, and then I'd look. Okay, I'd watch, and then I'd look and see where's that leading, etc. And so there was a point. I got to the end of the day, and I had wanted to look at the military summary channel. I used to follow him a year ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Not follow, just always would click on his assessment of what's happening in Ukraine. And I hadn't done that for a very, very long time, and he disappeared off my feed. And I woke up Sunday morning thinking, I'm going to have to find the military summary channel again and look at that. I go to my computer an hour or two later. There it is at the top of my feed. And I'm like, oh, look at that. Thank you. So, and that happens all the time. So it's one of the things, and that's a little tiny thing. It's not life-changing. It's not, but it's more affirmation that, yeah, we can heal. You know, my grandson got bit by a wolf spider. I don't know if we talked about that.
No, that's a nasty bite.
It was. And he had an anaphylactic reaction to that spider. He turned bright red, could hardly breathe. His face swelled to the point he looked like Cro-Magnon or, you know, something like that. And he was really concerned. And instantly I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And, you know, I got a homeopathic going and did some acupressure and a few other things. And he said, well, I think I should call the Poison Control Center. I said, you can. You'll be okay, but you can. If that'll comfort you or make you feel okay, yeah. And so he did, but he didn't do anything they told him to do, because all the stuff that I had already done was working, and it was all energetics, all of it. You know, sometimes you can, how do I say that? I don't want to give it away. You can pretend you're doing something physical. You're really doing something energetic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. and you get the energy, because energy responds immediately to consciousness. You get it moving in the direction it needs to go in, and it keeps on going that way, and and everything's okay. So you get these little miracles, and we don't try those things. We don't do those things. We get into being limited by our medical beliefs and our former experience with the body, and we lose out on an opportunity to use our great healing gifts.
Well, I think that most people have no idea that that is real. Most people, a large portion of the population in the United States
Oh, yeah.
would eye roll at that concept because the programming has been so very effective.
Well, that's a good point. That is one of the things you have to get beyond in order to move into a more expansive consciousness. That programming is like walls and ceiling and floors and trapdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And you just keep ending back up in the basement. You just keep ending up, in a place where it's like, you have to let go. You have to take opportunities that come up as opportunities to try stuff, to practice some of your healing skills, your knowing skills, your understanding skills, whatever it is. So your communication skills. I think I may have mentioned I started practicing telepathy with my cats. I have 3 cats that are my hunters here on the farm. They keep the mice down, the chipmunks down, the rats down, the squirrels down, the rabbits down, and even some of the baby woodchucks and things like that, which that's dangerous. And the other night, I hear this keening sound, and I hear it, and I'm busy, doing bookkeeping, and I ignore it, and I think I'm almost done. That something must be going on in the chicken coop. And this is like 11 o'clock at night. And I get all my stuff, and I'm walking toward the door, and I realize, what is that? And I open the door, and I hear what sounds like a couple of coyotes in the backyard. And my cat, named Abracadabra, who's a black cat, just howling at the top of her lungs. I don't know where she was. I couldn't see anything. But instantly, I ran and I tripped. And when I tripped, I fell into some chimes that are hanging on the porch. And the chimes made this big racket, and the sound stopped instantly. And it was one of those moments when you realize, oh my gosh, okay, there's such a compassion for the coyotes who might have been having an opportunity for a meal, and the amazing strength and willfulness of that cat. Abby is not a huge cat, but she's fierce. Oh my, she is fierce. And her howling was crying for help. Somebody come. And when I tripped and hit all the chimes, the coyotes took off. And Abby comes up on the porch, and her tail is, that big around. And I was like, oh, Abby, sorry I didn't come quicker. I'm sorry. So we have all these moments where we can touch base with Mother Nature, with other creatures, all these opportunities to have lessons, to understand that, we could, if I had paid attention a little bit sooner, I might have sent some energy. Maybe I did send some energy that I didn't know even, because that happens too. Because Abby was absolutely howling at the top of her lungs. And when I heard it, it was electrifying. But, that kind of experience in which I'm apologizing to the coyotes and apologizing to Abby and saying, I'm so glad you're here, and thanking the universe. People do not do that. And I think the walls that we have constructed that say we're human, we're better than all the others. Doesn't matter what others we are, whether we're talking about mosquitoes or stink bugs. Stink bugs are trying to get in at this time of year, or coyotes, or humans, people that are misbehaving because they don't know how to use their energy. We have to begin teaching that kind of thing, and it has to become formal education. And if we don't teach that, if we don't stand for that, then we're going to watch our world crumble, and we're going to lose some people in the process.
Well, when you say we have to start teaching that, I think we have to stand for it first, because there's no way. I mean, the education system is so corrupted.
Yeah.
And it's so filled with, that whole saying, everything you've been taught is a lie. I used to think, okay, well, sort of everything, but now I realize, no, everything.
Yeah.
is a lie.
I love that, sort of everything.
Sort of everything. But so my point to you is that there is, I'll go back to, I don't want to call them the elites, I'll call them the parasites.
Okay.
The parasites rule this planet.
They think they do.
In how the systems that are set up are functioning, and they're rigged in their favor because they set them up.
That's right.
So once we acknowledge that, okay, the systems that we have been trained into are not for our benefit. It's just like you said one time, and it was hit me on the side of the head. It's like all we're doing is pushing money uphill.
Yeah.
So standing for that acknowledgement of the power of our energy, almost in my mind, has to come first before we get organized enough to start teaching it. Because we certainly can't teach it in the school systems. That's not going to happen, because the school system is there to keep us as dumbed down as possible.
Okay, so let me say something that's really hard for people to hear. You have to withdraw from all of the systems.
I agree.
You have to withdraw. You can't fight.
Right.
I mean, you don't fight by fighting.
You don't win by fighting.
That's a better way to say it. You have to withdraw it. And that starts typically with, okay, let me figure out, how am I going to get food and water? How am I going to get energy for heat and AC? How am I going to educate my children? How am I going to give birth to my children? How am I going to support the land that my house is on, and the house? And when, the system is rigged to pay property taxes, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you have to begin withdrawing. What happens when you begin is it doesn't happen quickly. You begin, and the more you withdraw, the more the system begins to respond and to disintegrate. And sometimes, let's use the property tax, because that's one that people are finally waking up to. They don't really own one darn thing. They don't own the house that they have spent $300,000 on, or because if you don't pay your property taxes, they come and take it away. And the property taxes now, the game is, and you see this in Ohio, the game has been to triple property taxes so that people sell. And they are tripling taxes only in the farmland, so that the big elites can buy the farmland and take control of food, et cetera, et cetera. So people are falling for that. And when they're seniors and we don't have a backup system for finances, the backup system is Social Security, that's a joke. That's not a backup system at all. It's a way of borrowing money from people without paying interest and pretending that you get a tax break later. So, or at the time. So we have to begin withdrawing. The more we withdraw, the more subtle the crumbling will be in those systems. And the more subtle that crumbling becomes, the more widespread that becomes, the more it will become obvious and evident that nothing is working for those guys. And that we don't care because we're going elsewhere. And there will be people who have big money who will buy chunks of land because their heart is in the right place. And they will invite people to come and build on that land. And I know of a couple people doing this. And you build your own house, but the goal in building that house is to build it and pay it off within a couple of years. And while you're busy paying it off, you're also growing your own food. You're setting up your own energy system. Could be solar, could be something else, something somebody invented that they want to keep on the QT, on the low, down low. And then that property owner pays the property taxes as a protective umbrella, and that helps people get established. And there are groups in Utah, there are groups in Arkansas, there are groups in Kansas that are doing that kind of thing. And so there are good-hearted people out there, but you can't be homeless and say, okay, I want to join the community, because you don't have anything to contribute. You have to decide to take that risk before you get to be homeless so that you still have resources. And of course, if you still have resources, then why would you do anything different? Is the logic that people get caught in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are at this place where now, if we don't evolve, we're at a critical, absolutely critical point in time.
Okay. Can you break that down, kind of unpack that, Penny? Like, why do you say it's critical? What are some milestones you're seeing or some challenges you're seeing that you are now saying this is go time? This is
Okay. The first critical thing was the COVID issue. Okay. Are you going to follow that? Are you going to swallow that? Are you going to get that jab? A lot of people fell for that. This next one that is coming up is war. Why is there war? Why are we having war? When it's totally, totally stupid, totally unnecessary. And when you look at and listen to the words of the people that are in charge, then, oh my gosh, you can see, I mean, it's a perfect demonstration of the lowest kind of thinking that there is, the lowest frequency consciousness that there is.
But I want to interject here about war.
Okay.
You cannot throw a war unless you have people who sign up to carry the guns.
That's right. Except that they have a lot of equipment now that doesn't require people or guns.
Well, then who are they going to kill?
Well, they're going to kill the other guy's people.
Okay.
That support their corporations.
There, and that's it. So I guess my point is that until we get to a place as a civilization that men or women are no longer foaming at the mouth to go kill the other guy, I mean, we've got to change as a people to say, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want any part of that.
Yeah. But there's still people that will get worked up with the emotionally charged campaigns of Russia, or Putin, or the bad guys, or these guys. There's still people who will say, I'm going to go get those, the other people.
Yeah.
They're at that level that somehow fulfills a need in them.
I know. I do. They will end up being destroyed by the very thing that they are thinking they're destroying.
Yes.
and that it'll be too late. By the time they wake up to that, it'll be too late for them. But
But
it's
then they
not
go
too
on,
late for us.
it's not too late, but then they go on to the next experience
Yeah,
in their multidimensional experience that is appropriate for that mindset.
that's true. But it's kind of like I'm going to say living in the basement. if if you have a bad experience um, right now, like I'm going to say this, it's going to cause some uproar. A lot of the people that are are responsible for the destruction in Gaza were the people that were destroyed in the concentration camps. Okay,
Okay, so they have
they turned it off.
recently.
Yeah, they have come back with a vengeance and with a hurt and with an anger, and so it just it's like just keeps on turning over and over. So I think there's a couple of points that I have listed here that I think I just want to mention. So so I'm going to start by saying again, we've outgrown the system. It is no longer functional, and too many people are saying, I don't want that. They don't know maybe what they can get or what they could make or build or create to replace it, but they know they don't want that. And that's a start. Okay. If we don't upgrade our worldview, we're going to self-destruct. So those are the two starting points. So then I get this question from people all the time. Well, you talk about evolution. What are we evolving to? And so I think if we're going to upgrade consciousness, we're going to upgrade to what? Okay, so a couple things. We're going to upgrade to intuition. And that intuition is something that has already got a hold of millions of people here in the US as well as across the world, billions of people, because that intuition is causing people to be worried. It's causing people to have anxiety. Why? Because the intuition is knowing from within, and they are knowing from within that this doesn't look good. This looks like we're going to have a world war. This looks like destruction. And that's causing worry and anxiety. That is intuition that isn't being paid attention to. So we're already in that intuitive mode, and we're just letting it bug us. Okay, so that's why the levels of anxiety and chaos and all of that are sky high right now. It's because we have moved into that level, that expanded consciousness where we know, we can see, and we're not paying attention to it.
Okay,
So,
can I interject one thing
yeah,
on that topic of the worry and the stress?
anxiety. Yeah,
Yeah, and anxiety. It because in my from where I'm sitting, it looks like governments around the world are completely disregarding any
they are.
desire of the people.
That's true.
They
They're
have just
not our governments
they're
anymore.
not.
I'm
It
sorry to
and
say.
no, and they're not even faking it
No,
anymore.
they're not. They're not. And that is the red flag that says, whoa, that system isn't working anymore. We have to go beyond that. And that's not a quick fix. That's something that takes some planning, some preparation, some guts, some time, some energy, some money, some friends that say, yeah, keep going, that kind of thing. So the thing I want to mention is that war and suffering, which we all see coming, that's not inevitable. It's not inevitable. And when you expand your consciousness, you see the world as energy, not as a bunch of physical linear events. And you step into multidimensional consciousness. And multidimensional consciousness is consciousness that says, let me go ahead a year or two and see what I see. Let me go see what the outcome is. And that's multidimensional consciousness right there. You're not waiting for things to work out to say, oh crap, they didn't work out, I'm screwed. Instead, you're going ahead to look, and then you're backtracking and saying, oh, I think I need to, whatever it is you think you need to do. So you begin to see the world as, your worldview becomes one that says the world is energy. Okay, so that's a big change. And then you begin, once you get into that intuitive world, all sorts of people begin having dreams, especially the sensitive ones. Dreams that are warning dreams, dreams that are shocking, dreams of something awful happening, and they're so real. And they are bothered by those dreams. And they don't do anything about that either. But you have to pay attention. If you've had a dream that, that there's bombs falling on your city, or marauders running down your street, or the sun blows up, or the ocean washes across your continent, those are warning dreams. Those are calls for expanded consciousness, because consciousness is what manages energy. So we have a destiny, I think, and I don't think I've said this for a long time, but this civilization has a destiny, and that destiny is to become a fully evolved physical human with all of the gifts of consciousness without giving up the physical self.
Yeah.
That is really unusual. And why is that our destiny? So because this civilization is an experiment. And the experiment really is, can you work together without becoming a hive mind? Can you work together to cause or to create the energetic effects that you want to see happen? You can't, if you're a hive mind, you hear a lot of talk about hive minds, and people are all on the same page. They all think alike a lot. There's no deviation. There's no individuality in a hive mind.
Well,
We have this.
isn't that mostly based on fear?
What?
A hive mind.
No, that's the majority of civilizations out there in the universe. That I know that there's a lot of people who have made the hive mind a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. It's a bad thing for us because we are attempting to keep on or hang on to our individuality without being a hive mind, and to prove that, by God, we can still come together as one and make something happen or prevent something from happening, and then go back to being our individual selves.
Okay, is this the only place in awareness for all the civilizations where this type of experiment is happening?
At this point, yes. In this area of the cosmos, yes.
And why was this planet in this form selected? Is it because our bodies are so robust?
Because a humanoid is ubiquitous across the entire cosmos. Humanoids.
Aren't we a little bit more?
We're physical.
We're physical, but we seem to be able to, this body.
It is resilient, yes.
That's the word I was looking for. I mean,
Okay.
Look at how they've been trying to poison us. And we're still here, much to their chagrin.
Yeah, like, oh, damn, that didn't work. If you start with Noah's Ark, the whole story of Noah's Ark is to predispose us to civilizational destruction. And we've kind of like, yeah, okay, keep going. So, so we are not a hive mind. We are these amazing individuals. And by God, we're not going to be amazing individuals if we don't survive, and if we and if we want to survive, we have to come together, come apart, come together, come apart. And not come apart in terms of fighting one another, but go back to being the individual self.
Right.
Come together. And remember me saying, kind of hinting, well, maybe not hinting, saying directly, if we're going to face a micronova, our only chance is to come together as 8 billion consciousnesses and to affect that energy,
Right.
and manage that kind of situation. And that's what we're headed toward. And so that's our test of, can we come together? If we can't, we're done. The experiment, well, maybe they'll do it somewhere else in the universe, but the goal is to be able to evolve a human that can maintain the physical self and have this extraordinary individuality and this full potential as a human.
Okay, and then would that then be the template?
Yes, for other civilizations.
Yeah.
And they're hoping that we do that, because if we can do that, this is going to sound funny, the DNA that they have already collected will be affected by that success.
Right.
And they will be able to use that to seed other civilizations that are a little more resilient, a lot more resilient, and that can survive on planets that, might be difficult to survive on or
So
in.
we're like 1.0.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
And
Yeah.
then, it'll be 2.0. But here's
Right.
my question, Penny. Repeatedly, and not just from you, but from other people that I've, heard,
Uh-huh.
there is a continued agreement that the population is going to be diminished on the planet. Like, there's just not as many people. And and I'm not trying to be gruesome. And of course, we all want the people we love to stay. We all
Absolutely.
do. So let's just decide that those are all the people that are going to stay, is the ones that we love.
Yes.
It would seem to me to be a numbers issue that we needed how many billion? Is there 8 billion on the planet right now?
I think there's a little over 8 billion now.
Okay. So we've got a pool of 8 billion.
Right.
And maybe that 8 billion gets filtered down.
You got it.
Because you needed to start with a whole lot in order to.
Yes. Keep trying until you succeed, and you're going to lose people along the way.
Yeah, but you don't really lose them. They just go someplace else. So don't
That is true.
freak out.
Yeah.
You don't die. You just go someplace else.
Right. The people that are willing to be part of the experiment, to be part of the attempt, to develop this new kind of human, their input, even if they're not here, they still will enjoy the benefits.
To watch. Yeah. And it's like a rising tide raises all boats. I mean, if we can pull it off with a significant enough number of people in order to keep it rolling, what a cool thing.
It is. And I think what happens is that as you I'll use your word, filter down, as you lose a few here and there along the way, others are expanding tremendously into much greater power. And the hope is that group, whoever survives and is able to expand consciousness into some of the higher realms. I've been in those states of consciousness where you hold still. You don't think, you don't do anything that's sloppy or off the cuff, because every single thought you have reshapes physical reality, and it's
intentional. You're intentional.
Yes. Your intention is extraordinary. And that's a level of consciousness that we're moving toward.
Right.
And, and I've been in that a couple of times, And I cannot say, those are what I call those all-knowing states. That's, where I was knowing every single detail about the past and the future of every single thing in my environment. And that's, when I thought the wall was in the way, it started to collapse and I could hear it cracking, and it was like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh no, I love you. I love you. That kind of power is something that we have access to and that we can tap when we need it. And people don't realize how powerful thought is. Every thought you have reshapes reality or starts moving energy in that way. It sets up a pattern. And so the pattern that we want to be practicing, playing with, attempting, trying to recreate over and over, is a pattern of being able to impact the physical reality in such a way that is beneficial to all concerned.
Right.
And so that's, if we need to communicate with the sun, or communicate with the Pacific Ocean, or communicate with the nuclear plant down the road, or because things have gone awry at the 3D lower levels, then we need to be able to do those kinds of things. So
now I want to broaden what could happen, as we filter down. So
okay.
let's say as we filter down, I'm one of the people that gets booted onto the next journey.
Okay, so you're in the peanut gallery watching?
Well, I would be. That seems to me like another form of power, of positive power for us,
It
for
is.
those left on the planet, because I'd be there rooting and sending my energy like, come on, guys, keep going. You almost made it, blah, blah, blah. So even though you might cycle out of physicality, I think my perception is that my involvement, I would still be involved. I would still be like, go, go,
That's
go.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've just been talking with John Peterson. He died in August 20th.
How's he doing?
He's doing well. I mean, he went through some stuff right after he left here. But then he got in a groove, I guess you would say. And he said, I'm not going anywhere. And I can be much more effective from here. And it was like, oh. So, yeah.
So would you say that he's kind of like in the gallery right above us, sort of watching the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his goal is a new human and a new world. So that's
I think that's a good goal, John.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. And I think he's how would I say, where he was really grieving, having lost everybody at first. Enough people have kind of tuned into him and communicated that he's realizing that it's just a frequency barrier. That's all it is. So, yeah. So we're in a place, let me say a couple other things. And this is, this might discourage a few people, but don't let it discourage you. It's just a practical thing. The dissolution of the old world is needed because we can't make it work any longer.
Yeah.
It isn't working in a way that's good and that we appreciate. And when you're contributing stuff that is not, when you're angry, when you're contributing frustration and fear and anxiety, that becomes the whole world. So let that world go and start building your own world. So that's the first thing. And then the secret to thriving, we don't want to suffer. The secret to thriving is begin making an effort to stretch your consciousness into the higher frequencies. And that, that's, well, let me just continue. Yeah. Then to learn to see Why is something that looks bad or sad happening? What is the real goal of that? What's the gift in that? That's a 4D, at least upper 4D, if not 5D, even 6D consciousness.
Yeah.
Is why is that happening? What is the benefit? What is need? Why is that thing needed?
Yeah, well, that's like, we live on a planet of lies. What better way to develop your intuition?
Yeah, exactly. Very good. And then, begin making an effort to understand the nature of reality, which is consciousness, and how you interpret feelings and events is what you're doing with your consciousness. If you're interpreting them as got to get vengeance, that was evil, got to, sue that guy, or, or whatever, do damage to that person, that is not helpful to yourself. And you end up, you have to begin to understand that everything is consciousness, and all the physical stuff emerges from consciousness. It's not the other way around. It's not, and I've said that a million times. It's all consciousness. We're all connected. And that consciousness, we need to be expanding that. I don't really want to see the experiment flop. Okay?
I don't think a lot of people do. I was thinking about that very thing today, Penny, about what if with the next, whatever the next psyop is, whatever they're going to bring down the pike,
Right.
whether it's 9/11 or COVID or, the whole thing. What if the next psyop, instead of buying into it and engaging in the drama, we all just went out and worked in the garden,
Oh, yeah.
or, went for a walk with a neighbor?
The media would have a nervous breakdown.
Well, we would just remove the energy from the whole deal, and then
Right.
the parasites could just, keep
Spinning their wheels.
spinning their wheels, and,
Right.
we're baking bread.
Yeah, right. I like that. Or washing our socks, as I
Or
usually
washing our socks, yeah.
Yeah. Taking care of the everyday. That's really what we need to do, without being afraid and without being naive either. Being aware of what's happening and using that consciousness to shift that energy around yourself, at least,
Yeah.
and your family. And that's really the secret to thriving and being able to ride the waves of change instead of being drowned by the whole darn thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have to. We're at a point where, I think in the next time I do a Zoom stream, I'm going to do a little meditation thing that says, okay, let's practice using this consciousness. Let's practice expanding. Let's, take some steps that allow us to get into that state of consciousness where you're working with energy and it just feels natural, because it is natural.
Mhm.
And then, if something good comes out of that, then you'll think, oh, wow, I didn't expect that.
Well, and I think that with exercises like that feel good. They physically feel good.
Well, they do. They do, because everybody's body, no matter old or young, male or female, whatever condition it's in, the body knows when it's on track and is evolving in a direction that builds life. So you've heard me say, when everything you do nurtures life, you will have eternal life. And that's what we're headed toward. So it's not something, it isn't pie in the sky. And you need to start small in order to practice, in order to have little things happen that you can go, oh my, I asked for that and I got it. Or, oh, I saw that, and then it happened, or I heard that. You have to open up to those kinds of small experiences, because then that kind of forms the bedrock, of experiences in which you begin to know I can see energy move,
Yeah.
a lot of times, and I can see the energy moving around people as well. Their aura, it used to be called their aura.
Yeah.
I don't call it that anymore. That's kind of like old-fashioned psychic language, but um,
Oh, it's hippie language. Come on.
is it? Oh, okay.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. I already know the answer, but I guess I want to talk about this concept.
What?
When we make a decision, like, okay, the next site that comes down, I'm not engaging. I'm going to go do something
Yeah.
that's fun and nurturing and feels good.
Yep.
Then the universe brings things to you that support that decision.
That's right.
And I had the same experience. I was
So
thinking
true.
about mind control and how we've been so
Oh,
mind controlled. And I'm kind of
yeah.
a little fascinated with it because they've done such an exceptional job, particularly
They
here in
have.
the US. And I got to give them props because it's been very, very effective.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, I should contact Max and see if she wants to do a little video on mind control, because who would know about it? Max certainly would.
Yeah. Oh
2
my.
days later, I'm on Instagram. There's Max saying, I have a seminar on mind control. So it's like, I don't know which came first. If the universe brought me the idea to do a video with Max on mind control, or if I decided I wanted to talk with Max about mind control and then I saw the video. But what I do know is that it starts being this
Right.
fun little give and take. And when you decide that I'm no longer going to play that game doesn't feel good, I'm going to play this game, everything, it's like the universe comes up and supports that decision.
Let me take you back a couple of sentences. You said, I don't know what came first. The seminar or the thoughts about mind control, or there is no such thing as first, unless you're still down in the linear world.
Okay.
So what happens is you think about the mind control thing and you bring that to yourself. You open,
Okay.
It's like me wanting to see the military summary video to get updated on what's happening in Ukraine. For you, it was seeing Max as she's having a mind control seminar. So that's a perfect example of you reaching out, of drawing to yourself something that you're interested in. And you can say yes, no, maybe, I can't afford that, whatever, but you still will draw it. You still have to decide or make decisions about the thing that you brought to yourself.
Yeah. And I want to bring in, and I want to reinforce this, the flip side to that.
Uh-huh.
So when the parasites are pushing an agenda,
Okay.
it is fear-based news, it's fear-based newspaper, it's fear-based movies, it's fear-based television, it's fear-based commercials, it's fear-based, you're going to die if you don't get the jab. It's fear, 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 fear.
Right.
My understanding is the reason they do that is because we'll start ingesting it and ruminating on it and creating it for them.
Yeah, that's why they do it. And most people are
it.
not aware enough to consciously block that. I've been thinking just this last couple of days. I just put out the look-see for October, and I was thinking, well, I always start looking at what's going on in the world. As soon as I finish one look-see, I kind of start the next one. But the thought I had was, I think I just might do a look-see that is really all about consciousness and, different aspects of it. I don't know how that would look or sound or go, be received, or, whether it would be accepted or what. But it was just this thought of, okay, maybe I'll do something that is really focused on, look, we're creating. What do we want to create here? How about we create this? Okay, think about that. Imagine this, or whatever. And so, I don't know. I just know that at this point in time, we have to begin deliberately countering
Yeah.
the things that are fear porn, they call it, or fear based, or that are just utter stupidity. I shouldn't say that the things being said are stupid. We are naive if we believe those things to be true.
Yeah.
They
And
aren't how the world works.
it's not. So circling back to the multidimensional, we are multidimensional. All these lives are happening at once. And so if there's no first, in other words, it wasn't me thinking or Max doing, it was just a result of my desire or my intention.
Okay.
So now I'm wanting to do this interview with Max or have a conversation with Max about mind control.
Okay.
So that starts shifting the frequencies, and then that shifts the frequencies with all the lives, everything.
That's
So
right.
we are taught, my understanding, being raised in the school system, being a
Okay.
good little girl, going to college, getting, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
is that reality is fixed.
Oh,
Reality is fixed.
yeah.
You go to school, you get your student loan, then you buy a house and you get a mortgage and da, 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 da. There was never, ever anybody telling me that everything constantly it's shifting beautifully constantly.
Yeah.
Which is so much more exciting
Yes.
than what we were taught. I mean, it's almost when I really think about it, it becomes this magical thing.
Yeah. It is. It is empowering, because if it's shifting and you can impact it, then let me go back to something you said just a minute ago. This thought arises within you, and then you went on to say a whole bunch of other things. What brought that thought up? Where did that desire to talk to Max come from, or that desire to have to investigate mind control? Where did that come from? Why did that come through you?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good answer to start with, because most people don't ever question, why did that come up? What are you in touch with? And that says, from my point of view, oh wow, she's in touch with that higher consciousness that is of service to the world.
Yes.
Whether you know it or not, you're responding to that love of being of service to the world.
Yes. And I see that. Can I tell a little story about myself?
Yeah.
Really quickly, and maybe some people will get something from this.
Okay.
Years ago, 5 or 6 years ago now, I made an appointment with a psychic and a medium.
Mhm.
She had a little appointment where she was looking into your past lives and talking about your journey and what your birth, what your intention was when you incarnated. And I booked one of those appointments.
Okay.
Very excited. She was booked out. It was like 6 weeks from the time I made the appointment until the time the appointment happened.
Okay.
A week and a half before the appointment, my youngest daughter died.
Jesus.
I emailed her and I said, I am going to keep the appointment, but I need to tell you, this is what's going on in my life. I just want you to be prepared for how I'm going to be. I'm going to be
Right.
a little rattled.
Yeah.
We get on to the appointment. Now, this is about me, my past lives, and she says to me, I understand why you made this appointment, but I need to tell you, your daughter is here.
Oh.
And I think that's what we need to be doing.
Oh. Oh,
And
right.
what she said to me, and I was so blown away, and that made the difference between me drowning in absolute despair
Oh,
and having hope, that
yep.
conversation with my daughter. But what she said to me a few years later, the psychic medium,
Uh-huh.
because I said, "That was so wild how that happened." And she said, "No, what you're not getting is that you made the appointment with me in the beginning because that was gonna happen."
Yeah, because you knew. Yeah.
And that to me, first of all, I never thought about that. It never dawned on me. But the beauty of
Yeah.
that whole process
Oh,
is extraordinary. And I realize this is about me, and I apologize for that. But what I
no,
want to
that's
do is
okay.
make the point that there is a beautiful dance
Right.
available to us.
Oh, yes. Mm. Yeah. And we're not even listening to the music.
We're
So that's
not.
why we don't dance.
We're not,
Yeah.
because the goofballs have been very good, the parasites.
Yeah.
But can you imagine, Penny,
Oh,
the fear or the what the I'm gonna say fear that
yeah.
they have, that 8 billion people might all of a sudden go, "Oh, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. We're gonna do this." The
Yeah.
power that we have.
Is extraordinary.
Yeah,
It's unmeasurable.
yeah,
Yeah. It can't be cataloged. It can't be contained. And yet, people are, it's like they're sitting on their hands right now. So they're sitting on their minds is probably a better better
okay. Well,
image.
how about this? So we know that there's no way that all 8 billion, we're gonna lose some people.
Yeah, true.
So are they not playing their part?
Yeah.
Because there's something about my frustration when I see people getting their 27th booster and their flu shot, and their shingles shot, and then they're sick for 3 weeks, and they are so glad they got their shots or they would have been sicker.
I'm
That
sorry.
frustration watching their dance
I know.
adds fuel to my fire.
Yeah, but they are offering to show us what happens when you conform and how important it is
That's
to
my
stand
point,
up.
is that they're playing an important part
Yes.
in the dance.
Yeah. Yeah. But remember me saying that we needed all the sheeple because they follow beautifully and
And
they're
they
following the
also
wrong thing right now. But if they switch, holy cow, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of follow.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some of that same concept. Um, I guess I would say it this way. There's a parallel thing in the spine, the DNA that we have the what do you call it, the spiral
Mhm.
that we have that holds our DNA, and that same kind of bigger action is in the body itself. It spirals up the spine. Um, all of that is really surrounded by what scientists call junk DNA. I'm
That's
like,
the
what
DNA
is the
that came
matter
from
with you?
God.
That is not junk
Yeah,
DNA. That is supporting systems. They don't have a direct role, they have a support role.
yeah,
And if you took those away, the person would disintegrate.
yeah.
So you can't look at that as saying, those are irrelevant. Every single person that is here counts. And they're holding this thing called life, which is amazing. I actually am working on a document that I want to present that is about AI and why, I won't go into it, just that there's life and then there's life. And machines are not,
They're not life.
they're not, they're not going to, they're not going to achieve artificial general intelligence, which they think is sentient, because of the critical thing that's missing. So,
Yeah. Now,
um,
Julie is asking, and I have this, so I want some clarity on this. So, Penny, will there be a bifurcation with humanity? This is what I see. My question is, what do you mean by bifurcation? Does that mean we're going to have two Earths? We're going to have one
Yeah.
group of humanity is going to split off and get in this horrible control system, and the rest of us are going to go somewhere else? Or
we've already bifurcated quite a bit. So what the split that is driving people crazy right now is the split that some people are, quote, on the left, which is a fine place to be. Others are on the right, which is another fine place to be. Some people just want to bring the whole thing down because they want power. That's the whole Antifa group and all of those homegrown Soros-generated terrorists that are trying to get power for themselves. And so we've got a mess. We do have a mess. And so it's hard to see the bifurcation, but it's a very specific split in how, I'm going to say, some people want to restore the 3D world. Other people want to transcend the 3D world. And for a while yet, those two groups are going to live on this planet and look at each other and say, don't you dare, and things like that. But everybody will have to learn how to ride those waves of change. And what I don't know for sure what will happen, but what I have seen is that there's a huge die-off of the people, and they don't really die. They just go to the next world. All of the war, there is no such thing as death. That's the bottom line. You go to another world that is a perfect match for your talents and your gifts and your consciousness and your way of doing things and the way that you want to live and the way that you see things. You'll be among like-minded people. So it's community building at what I'll call the astral level.
what do you see as causing the die-off, Penny?
Some of it is, some of it, there's a whole bunch of reasons. Some of it is the effect of the shot, which is delayed, but it shortens people's lives. Another is there isn't enough food and people haven't taken action. Another is war. The wars continue. This is one of the things I was seeing this weekend, which is what drove me to spend the whole day looking at what's happening out there in the world. If we don't, next spring is a very, very dangerous turning point. We in the US stand a chance of being attacked if we do not have something different with our leaders, our leadership. And right now, not enough people are signaling in some way that we don't want that leadership. You can't say anything about Donald Trump. The Trump that we're seeing, I don't know that that's the real Trump. You can't say anything about anybody. And it's, and the troublemakers they're the ones in power. So how do we signal? How do we signal? And some of that, pardon?
Energetically
And by withdrawing from the system.
Yeah.
So, and that's the system of institutions and banking and power and all that stuff. Taking responsibility, total responsibility for our survival and our life. And that's signaling, I don't know, it's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
What I saw was that we will be attacked and there will be big suffering. But it'll be like, boom, wake up call for whoever's still here. So, yeah, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I keep working toward, come on, come on, come on, wake up. And I think I'm going to teach my intuition classes a little differently over this next year so that I can really reach more people so that they can at least have a taste. What does it mean to expand your consciousness?
Mhm.
What is that? What's involved in that? So
You have several, or at least a few of the classes now, Penny, online recorded, right? That people can take
yeah,
at any time.
intuition, yeah, intuition 1, 2, and 3 are now on demand, so people can sign up.
Mary
Um,
Jo, can you put the links of those into the chat and maybe in the comments so people
oh
can
yeah,
click over and take a look? That would
yeah,
be helpful. Because I think that, of all the mysteries on the planet, Penny, I think consciousness is near the top of the list because we had just,
yeah.
there's just, it is such a foreign, yeah,
I
it's funny to me when I see people
I hope.
analyzing facts over and over again, trying to come up with an answer. And I think, do you not have any like sense? Like, what are you feeling about it?
That's right. Feeling is the cause of all thinking. If you feel and then you think about what you feel in order
Mhm.
to analyze it or justify it or figure it out or use it for direction or impress people, whatever you do with your thinking and your thoughts, but feeling is primary. And we do not really uh, we do not understand consciousness much at all. People
Oh,
think that consciousness is their thinking, and the consciousness is something way deeper, way deeper.
yeah. Is
Yeah.
there anything else on your list there that you had?
Um, let's see. No, I think we covered most everything. I think I would just repeat: we've outgrown the system. We have to let go of it gently, quietly, gracefully, responsibly. We can't keep trying to prop it up. It isn't going to be good for us in the long run. And I say that knowing that that's going to overwhelm people. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to overwhelm anybody, but that's where we're at. And if we don't do that, we're yeah, we will face some other things that we'll say, oh, I wish I had taken responsibility for myself.
Yeah.
That might have been a much, much more rewarding path. So,
I'm going to plug another thing of Penny's now. And that
oh,
is her book called The Revival. You can get it on
oh,
Amazon. And
yeah,
I would imagine that some people are saying, well, how do I withdraw from the system? Like, what does that mean?
yeah,
If you get the book, The Revival,
yeah,
it's an easy read. All the different sectors are broken down, and you could go through each one of those sectors and say, okay, how could here's this sector. How could I become more self-sufficient in this area?
there you
And then
go. Yeah,
pick another sector. Okay, what can I do to kind of back away from this sector? Homeschooling your kids is an obvious one. Growing your food is an obvious one.
yeah,
Using cash is an obvious one. Building community in your neighborhood is an obvious one. So there's
yes,
every little step in the right direction not only will set you up for a better outcome, but imagine how it will impact the energy on the planet if everybody and you start with one thing and then you add another thing and then you add another half of a thing and then
I think the thing about the revival is that I was trying to help people develop an awareness of self. How, there's I don't know, 5,000 questions in that book. And each question is designed to make you stop and think about things that you maybe never thought about before. And that is what I call the work of becoming an aware person who has an expanded consciousness and who's sensitive to all the nuances of all the stuff going on around them. So, the expansion of consciousness does not carry you beyond the pain and does not carry you beyond the difficulties. It carries you into a place of wisdom, grace, and power.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that from my own personal experience, it doesn't take away the pain, but it
Yeah.
it hurts in a different way. It hurts less, or it feels more like a moment of information and growth than a crippling,
Yeah.
than a crippling experience.
It's a goal that the goal is to be able to fall in love with yourself and your world and every single thing in it, and to stay in that state of love. And that's what awareness leads to, is you realize, we're all made of love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful place to be. We need to fall in love again.
Yeah.
That's one of the questions the robes asked me. What has happened in your world that, I forget, they said 6 billion people can't even come up with enough love to change one leader? I was like, oh, wow. Never thought about that.
Well, because the parasites were really good at what they did. I mean, we gotta love them for that.
We're going to be really good at loving, at shifting things gently and smartly, and et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. So, yeah, it's a future that we want.
It is. Well, I
Yeah.
think that's why we came here,
Yeah,
because it sounded like an exciting journey, an
it
exciting,
has been. Oh my,
never a dull moment.
no.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
my.
Penny, any last words for this month?
I'm gonna leave people with a question. Ask yourself, in what ways have you outgrown your old self? Think about that.
Yeah.
There might be one or two, it might be a lot. But just be gentle with yourself, or recognize the ways that you have outgrown your old self, your old life, and the life that's all around you.
That's a good question. That's everybody's homework. Write it in a journal.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Penny.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And
I
thank
know-
you to everybody out there listening, talking, commenting. I never get a chance to look at the comments, but some of them are so good and some of them are so funny. And they tell us where we're at. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So we'll say goodbye. We'll see you next month.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Okay.
We appreciate it. Go out there and pick one thing that you can
Right.
kind of start taking back and owning. Yeah.
Hey, that's very good advice. That's another piece of the homework. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. See you next month, guys.
Okay.